There you go.
Good, we're on.
So there might be some review required at a later date.
Well,
I
and
second
Melissa,
that.
that'll
I'll need to watch the
that'll be good
recording
for
to
those
learn the
people
whole thing.
who arrive late, have to leave early, or can't join us.
That's
Right?
for sure.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock, folks. Let's get started. First of all, I want to just say to everybody, thank you for joining us for our August Tuesday talks. This is something that Mark Chipman initiated, and I had dabbled with in those last few months of the year I was DG, and DG Ron wanted to carry forward. So the second Tuesday of every month from 7 to 8 o'clock at night, we have a focus conversation, presenter dialogue about different topics that are really important to Rotarians in our district. So tonight we are very privileged to have Melissa Wells. And Melissa, you have you've been working with a couple of clubs, but you're going to really talk tonight about the Club Runner website refresh program. And we're really looking forward to you talking to us about what that involves and just sharing your knowledge about social media and websites. And the nice thing is that you are also a Rotarian, not former, but you are a Rotarian. And that really helps everybody kind of connect. So we're really looking forward to your presentation tonight. I know you're going to give us lots of tips on leveraging website and social media. And so I think really it's over to you, and thank you for joining us tonight.
All right, thank you very much for having me. Let's see, I guess the first thing I'm going to do is just provide in the chat the link to the 7070 refresh program, so that if any of you represent clubs that are not currently enrolled in the program, you can get on that. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a background on myself. I am a library and research technologist by my degree. Really enjoyed the whole concept of how people come at information, how when someone comes to your librarian and says, I need to write a paper about dogs, they really filter down on, all right, what is it particularly you have to do? How long does the presentation need to be? Are you presenting this paper to kindergarten students or to university grads? And so I got into kind of the real world of library and found that it was kind of boring and didn't really fit with my personality style that tended to be pretty fast-paced and goal-focused. So we had done a few courses on elements of web design, just kind of introductory type stuff. And a job came up at Royal LePage's head office in Toronto, and they were willing to hire me and basically train me on the job. So that seemed to be more up my alley, and it turns out it indeed was. This was the early days of virtual reality house tours. So it's really interesting now with COVID to see how that has just developed. Talk about technology changing quickly, someone commented on earlier. And so I also worked with the individual agents, first client contact and building their sites for them. Found that I really enjoyed that part of the job. The focus in the interpersonal and helping people figure out what they wanted to be and what their business direction wanted to go in. And then in turn, developing the outside face for their marketing plan. The library sciences and research technology came into play in a really big way, and still does to this day, in understanding how people's brains work, how they're going to come at information, and how they find it. So understanding the very visual people that are looking for photos and captions and call to action buttons versus the analytical type people that are looking at navigation menus, words, very specific flow of where things should be, and trying to find a marriage for businesses, service clubs, etc., to get their word out effectively. I have been a member of the Welland Rotary Club for now, I think just over 5 years. I was asked to join after I designed their website with the old version of Club Runner. I still have hair, if you can believe it. It's quite shocking. And as a result of doing that project, they asked if I would come on board. And I think it was only about 6 months later that they asked if I would be their marketing chair. I said yes. I knew very little about Rotary, I will be honest. And looking back now, I just shake my head. But I had the skill set that they needed to learn and get the word out about what Rotary is in the Welland area. Since that time, I have learned a lot about Rotary, but also about how to market Rotary clubs. So that's really what I want to bring to you in the talk today, is the things that I have learned in the process of the last 4+ years and how that can be implemented for Rotary clubs. But also this is very transferable to business as well. So if any of you are entrepreneurs or part of a high-level business development team, a lot of this stuff is pretty applicable to that. So I'll start with just a little overview of the Refresh project, what its purpose is, and then we're going to go into some meat of marketing and audience and everything like that. So the Refresh project was the brainchild of the Public Image Committee of District 7090, which is what the Welland Club is part of. 7090 spans both Canada and the US clubs, so like Southern Ontario, Bits, Niagara, etc., and out to Hamilton, and then down into a lot of clubs in the New York State. So that itself was very interesting. The goal of the committee was to provide support to each club individually to redesign their websites, and then to train them on how to manage them going forward. Most of the clubs have been running on the old Club Runner system that is very archaic and difficult to work with. They've since come up with a new version of Club Runner that is much, much better. Not 100% there, but worlds and worlds better than what it used to be. So the timing was right to turn all of these old, text-heavy, very little pictures, outdated, stale content into visually appealing, engaging to non-Rotarians as well as Rotarians, that they could then go forward and update themselves. I think the success of the project can be attributed to the 1 hour of training that every club receives individually after the refresh is done. So it starts off with a kickoff call with your club only. Go through your existing site via Zoom and screen share, identify what needs to change, create a wish list of content pages that you do not have. Turns out most clubs do not have membership join pages or any kind of information on how to join the club. So we create a wish list of the pages that are missing and need to be built. Then I go back, do all the work for them, and it takes about a week. And then we circle back and do a full hour of training via Zoom with that team, and we record it. So that recording is provided back. They can review it, share with anyone that they can shepherd hook in the future to help them out, and provide a real plan for going forward. So the project saw 51 clubs out of 66 having the refresh done. As well, we redid the district site in its entirety, including moving over all of the content pages to the new version of Club Runner's page editor. And we also built a district Rotaract site for all of the Rotaract clubs in our district. So it was quite a good project. We did it in just over 6 months, and the engagement was excellent, and the appreciation from the clubs was just overwhelming. It's been great. Met a ton of amazing people on both sides of the border, and it was really quite a joy to do. So the project is now being flowed out into 7070. And we're working through a queue system based on the clubs that have entered the form, which I put the link in the chat box there for you. So clubs have signed up and I'm now working through them, usually kind of a couple per week, to redo their sites. And we always start with that kickoff call first. So that's where we're at with that project. If you have any questions at the end, we can certainly entertain those. But I didn't want the whole focus of this presentation to be that. I really wanted you to have some solid takeaways for how to market your club. So that's where we're going to go next. So I think any good marketing plan, be it business or service club, needs to start with identifying what your goals are. So a few good goals for a Rotary marketing plan would be to get more members, to bring awareness to club projects, to get attendees to your events, financial donations, or perhaps volunteer support from a larger core of people than you need to put on an event, or perhaps a service project. Perhaps bring awareness to general Rotary aspects, such as what are our 7 areas of focus? What is Rotary International? Why is it the largest service club in the world? Things like that. So once you have your idea of what you want to say, what you want to bring a voice to, the next thing is to know your audience. So as we know, the demographics of Rotary and most service clubs in North America trend towards a 60 and over male focused membership. This is a group that tends to be more responsive to print and local radio. This group is also much more comfortable inviting and being invited to events and meetings from colleagues. Marketing to this particular group should include some high-level guest speakers. So you think maybe some members of government, some of these international speakers that we can get now via Zoom, things like that. And some special event invitations, such as the golf tournament you were talking about. Something like that, they would be far more apt to be comfortable coming to. This is a demographic that is used to having to network in a face-to-face way. Another thing that is good for this demographic is a membership drive, postcard, or door hanger at a targeted location type approach. So you can get some pretty inexpensive physical cards or door hangers designed through Vistaprint or other competitors, like 1,000 of them with a clear call to action, such as, come for a free lunch, or, attend this event, something like that, that is abundantly clear with your club's information and website, etc. on the bottom. Go to a location that makes sense for the demographic that you're trying to hit, such as a golf course housing community or a lifestyle focused type community, and see what you can get from something like that. A growing demographic group within Rotary is the 50+ ladies group, looking for social connections and the ability to use their time for good within the community. With children out of the house and semi or full retirement, this group is looking for positive ways to use their time. It's imperative to make your community aware of any service projects that you're doing. I say to almost every club that I meet with for the redesign project, Rotarians are great about doing things and terrible about telling people about it. So you need to consider that this group, you need to tell them about what you're doing. Think about compiling press releases on reading programs in schools, no-sew blanket bees, serving at the soup kitchen. This age group tends to read more local online news, and they actually do read it. I run a online website for our Niagara area, and by far the comments that we get back from our weekly newsletter are from this demographic, because they're actually reading everything, whereas the younger demographic tends to scan and move on. So Consider that how you might use something like a My Toronto or Snap News or something like that, that has a really uber local focus. Make sure that you're providing any outlet like that with your press releases. They are often will provide that posting for free for service clubs, and it's great content for them as well. So the under 40 and female group is where Rotary wants to move in the future. This age has limited time. They're still raising families, building careers, and coaching Little League. Time is valuable, and they want to make sure that they're putting what little they have to good use. This group wants to see what you're doing, typically locally in their own community, how you're helping their kids and other young people. How are you making your town a better place? Can your club support their entrepreneurial or sales jobs in a networking capacity? Although Rotary isn't really a business club, it still provides great connections and networking opportunities. The 40 and under demographic is most effectively reached via your club's website and Facebook. If you're targeting a more professional group, then LinkedIn is also an appropriate social platform to delve into. So we'll get more on the specifics of how to run some of these social media campaigns shortly, but just under the umbrella, I want to draw your attention to who is using these various platforms. And then finally, we have our college and university age group via Rotaract. These young people have a passion for service, and they tend to take the People of Action slogan very seriously. I'm sure if one of them were to deliver this presentation, you would be getting tips on Snapchat, Instagram, and probably some social media platforms we've never even heard of. So, what social media platforms do you use? What old school or print platforms do you use? What is your target demographic for each one? So think about that before you get started. So by way of recap, the options that we have are print, word of mouth and networking, radio, hand-delivered postcards or door hangers, your own club's website, community-focused websites and news outlets, and social media channels. So everybody wants to talk about social media tips. So we'll go there next. Tends to make sense. So here's a few things that have come out over time and that I've experienced. The first one is focus on what you can manage. There's a myriad of social media platforms out there, including, but not, this isn't it, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat. The list goes on with more being added every day. Don't overwhelm your club's social media coordinator by trying to hit all of them. Instead, pick one or two that you can manage on a regular basis and do well. For Rotary, Facebook tends to be a great application for the 35 to 50-year-old target audience. It lends itself to photos, short snippets of information, and sharing links. Aim to post at least 4 times per week with a good mix of information, human interest, stories, and your ask posts. If you have too many ask or business type promotional posts, you'll lose your audience and their interest. Whenever possible, tag the Facebook page of sponsors, associated community groups, groups that you're donating money to, speakers, etc. This draws their attention to your post and allows them to share it or respond to the post. Expanding your reach, or going viral, as the term is, delivers your message to a wider audience. It encourages more followers to your page and ultimately opens the door to new members or supporters. Another good social platform to consider, as I mentioned, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn has typically been professionally focused, but in many ways, you need to think of marketing your club in similar ways that you would marketing a business. Create a profile for your club. You can add articles from time to time. LinkedIn profiles tend to be more static in nature, so they don't require as much upkeep as Facebook does. Speaking of upkeep, building a content calendar is very, very helpful. Now, this term was coined for the social media venue, so it's generally called building a social media content calendar. But the reality is that in marketing Rotary clubs, you need to remember all the other things that we just talked about. You need to remember the print, you need to remember your monthly newspaper article, everything else. So I'm going to switch this up to build a content calendar that encompasses everything. Reason for this is saves you time because you're organized. It allows you to post consistently. You'll make fewer typos and also reduce the risk of those uncomfortable big mistakes that can happen. Gets you more ambitious with your social strategies. You're not going to miss out on relevant moments and events that you want to market. And you're going to make higher quality content because there's some thought behind it. It will also allow you to track what works, what doesn't work, and improve on it. A marketing calendar is an overview of everything you're going to do going forward. It can be organized in the form of a spreadsheet, Google Calendar, interactive dashboard, like if you use something like Hootsuite to help you, or simply just a print calendar, which is exactly what I did when I started working with the Welland Club. There was so much that I didn't know, and because there was so much I didn't know, it seemed like there was just an abundance of information out there on Rotary, and there really is. You've got themes of the month, you've got Rotary International, the foundation, all the areas of focus, thoughts of the day, Rotary facts. There's so much that if you don't focus in and pick something every month, you can really get overwhelmed. When you're overwhelmed, you don't get started. So there's a few different approaches you could take. You could start with just the Rotary theme of the month and build all of your posts and print that month based on the theme of the month. You could work through the 7 areas of focus. You could highlight a different committee within your club per month. Build your monthly calendar on a particular theme. This will provide a solid foundation for your voice. And then you can work in all the little one-offs that pop up. So the event that is unusual or different crises that may happen that you're responding to as a club. So you can always work those in, but your calendar is going to provide that steady base and focused approach for what you want to do. Each entry into a calendar usually includes some combination of these elements. The exact date and time that the post is going to go live, the networks that you're going to use, so Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. One article could be used in several different ways on different platforms. So consider posting a check presentation, photo, and news story to your club's website first. Then use that photo, excerpt, and link on your Facebook page. Just a few lines about the story, vivid picture, and then a link out to the website for the full story. Be sure to tag the organization that's receiving the check in this particular case. Pointing your social media posts back to your website for the full story will encourage website traffic and additional eyes beyond the article itself. Remember, all of these supporting social posts are meant to drive traffic back to the hub that contains everything. So perhaps they went back to your site to read that check presentation article, but now that they're there, they see all the other things that you do in the community and internationally. And then they get engaged and want to know how to attend a meeting as a guest. And then they want to know how they would join and what that encompasses. Once you have their attention at your site, they will continue to go. The same story that we're talking about, this check presentation story, You could also then post that individual picture to Instagram with a simple caption, again, drive them back to your website. And finally, that could be one of your monthly article posts to LinkedIn. So one piece of content, one effort at writing a press release and getting a picture can have multiple applications, which all have completely different audiences. And that's really our goal with marketing, is to hit all the different audiences with minimal time as possible, because let's face it, we're all volunteers and we're all trying to do other things at the same time. So a calendar would generally also include the copy or any creative assets that you're going to use, photos, video. I always say, make sure that you have the copyright license to use any photos or videos you're using. Google Images is not okay. So generally what you want to do is use the face of your own club. Get pictures from your own events, although I get that that's been very tough for the last year and a half. But we're real people. We're real people interacting with the community. We're real people having fun together. Let's show the world that, instead of using some stock polished photo that everybody can see through. So whenever possible, use your own stuff. Your plan for your calendar is also going to have any relevant links or tags that are to be included, and any other relevant information such as dates and deadlines. Depending on the scope of your strategy, your calendar may include one or many social networks at the same time. Also note any print or outside media campaigns that you're going to strive for in that year. So if you're going to try to do a door hanger campaign, set that for maybe June, when the weather's quite lovely and it's quite easy to get people boots on the ground walking around a golf course community. Don't wait until November and go, oh yeah, you're going to do that this year. Getting that 12-month calendar will really help you. Your content calendar can have some staples each month, such as who your speakers are going forward, club member profiles, and I want to come back to this in just a second, the Rotary theme of the month, facts, where the money goes features on projects and causes, and of course, all the other Rotary type stuff that we can pull from Rotary International. I wanted to come back to the club member profiles. In this time of COVID, where content has been very difficult to get, especially original content, club member profiles is a great way to have constant information to update your website and your social profiles, as well as being those real people at the club. The best example that I have seen this done is the Buffalo Sunrise Club. They are a very young club. It was quite dynamic and interesting to dialogue with them. And they got a headshot and provided just a simple list of 4 questions for every member, same 4 questions. Basically, why did you join Rotary? What do you do in your spare time? Who are you? And what areas do you like to serve and engage in? Very easy. It was only meant to be a few sentences per kind of question, so approachable. They got those all in from everybody, and they posted 1 profile a week. And over the course of, I think it was about 3 months, 4 months, they got everybody in there, and they have this wonderful cache of articles on who they are. And of course, they dripped those into all their social media feeds and got to tag the businesses that these members were part of, or any other volunteer work that they do. And the network just expanded from there. So consider something like that. You have the resources sitting right there at your own club. Doesn't hurt to use them. All right. The other thing that I found helpful, again, remember, I was pretty new to Rotary when I took on this role and started this whole calendar approach. I got all of the committee directors to provide a 10 to 15 short posts for social that I could sprinkle in throughout the year. So these were, again, only meant to be a couple of sentences on projects that they were doing, areas that they were working in internationally, call for added volunteers for particular projects that they did throughout the year. This gave me the ability to really make sure that all of the committees were profiled throughout the year. And I learned a ton at the same time, and it saved me from having to create all that content myself. So if you're going to do that and go to the committee heads, make sure that you make it clear you do not want novels. You do not want them spending more than an hour on compiling all posts that you need for the whole year. They need to not be encumbered by this, but recognize that you're trying to support them in what they do. So to recap, some of the things that you would want to include in your content calendar would be a monthly theme focus. Focus on what you can do well rather than a shotgun approach to social media. So like I said, pick one or two social media channels that you can actually manage and not let go stagnant. Consider if it makes sense to put some advertising dollars behind any of it, but only do that once you've run with it for several months and you see what you can do just by organically providing content. There should be a mix of special interest stories, snapshots of members, again, put a face to Rotary, community projects, Rotary facts. Educate the consumer on what Rotary is. Post upcoming speaker profiles, headshots, and LinkedIn profiles, and tag the speaker so that you appear on their social media channels as well. Always consider the widening effect of social media. In a good number of social posts, point back to your club's website for more information and provide a solid call to action, such as join us as a guest in a meeting, attend a special event, donate to a cause, or learn more. Okay, websites. So your club's website itself. If you haven't done the refresh project yet, hopefully you will, because we will go through a lot of the nitty-gritty of this kind of stuff in that process. You will hear me say over and over, we are an attention deficit disorder society. It's a sad reality for any of you readers out there. It's just the way it is. So you need to think about short paragraphs for your website. Lots of visuals, pictures of your club as a place that others can see themselves in. So if I'm not a member of your Rotary Club, I want to be able to envision myself sitting at the table with the rest of you, out doing a garbage cleanup along the waterway, serving at that soup kitchen, or doing these no soap blanket projects. Show yourselves in your environment. Make it clear that you're not a stuffy social club, that this is something that people of all ages and influences want to get involved with. Use real photos, we talked about that whenever possible, and use good quality photos. Phone cameras have gotten to the point where you can take some really great stuff. You don't need to be a professional photographer, but try to make sure you're holding your hand steady and you're not using like fuzzy small type pictures. If you wouldn't use it on your business website, consider whether you should be using it to market your Rotary site either. And then the biggest thing I think is to update your site frequently. Content is king. The old adage is true. If you're putting up a website and I see that your last story or news post was, from 2019, I'm going to assume that you're not a very active club. So make sure, if in the very least, you're posting your upcoming events and your latest news stories to your site. The new Club Runner system has the ability to feed in all of the news and event posts directly So you post it once and you can have it show up in all kinds of different places, and it makes it look like your site is constantly being updated. So that's something you really want to consider. Some of the questions that I've received regarding club websites in the process of the redesign project have been, so the first one would be regarding AODA compliance, or the accessibility law that the Canadian government put into place January 1st. Club Runner has told me that their sites are AODA compliant by nature. Kind of have to take them at their word. The compliance document is about 40 pages long of fine print, and it's kind of a tough read. So I'm just going to assume that they're pretty close on that. But there's some things that you can also do just in an intuitive manner for your own site when you're posting content. So accessibility in websites applies to visually impaired. It actually touches on cognitive impairment as well, which gets back to how are people looking at the information and providing multiple avenues for the same thing. So when I talk about we're going to provide a picture of what we're doing for projects, but we're also providing it in the navigation menu. And oh, by the way, we're going to have a paragraph down here about it. Yes, it's duplicating that focus and where I want to lead them by the hand to throughout the site, but there's a reason for that. It's because someone might identify with a picture and not be able to read through the paragraph and really, get that part of it. So for accessibility, you're thinking things like larger sized text, white space, not putting that bright yellow highlighting behind titles that's very difficult to read, trying to provide a distinction if you're putting text on top of pictures. Try to provide something that will make it pop out or jump so that people can see it. And then there's a bunch of things like providing alternative tags on images and things like that, that if you know what you're talking about, go ahead and do it. If not, just do the basics. If you can't read it on a phone, odds are someone that's visually impaired on a desktop is having a hard time with it as well. So just try to take the best approach that you can to that. If your club website or your business website is running something other than Club Runner, such as WordPress or a different type of content management system, there are various programs that you can put on top of it to make it completely compliant. It essentially creates an alternative of your website for people to select kind of a la carte what they need. The program that I use is called Accessibility, and it's very easy to implement. And so if you're a high-level business that is really concerned about accessibility, that is a good approach to take, and it's much cheaper than having someone redo the website according to every jot and tittle of the 40+ page document. So that's one that I get all the time. Another one that I get all the time is search engine optimization, AKA how does Google look at our site? It's a very valid question. Google also has a multi-tiered algorithm that they use, and it's changing often. It's not as big as the AODA document, but it's complex enough that there's a lot of things you want to think about. Some of the top ones are frequently updated content. So if you're already posting your news stories, you're going to be a happy place for Google because they're seeing that you're updating your site. Those news stories are probably also pretty rich in keywords, things that are Rotary related, your community related. Use your geographic community's name, use other service clubs that you're working alongside with if you're partnering, things like that. Google also wants to see lots of pictures on the page. So that again lends itself well to the kind of audience that you're appealing to. Google also looks at things like reciprocal linking. So if you're providing a link to your Facebook page and back from your Facebook page, they like that. If you're working with another service club and you link out to them, encourage them to link back to you. Google gives you extra credit and bumps you up if you're doing stuff like that. So you can, try to become an expert on what Google wants, but some of the basic practices are probably just a good place to start if you're the marketing director or in a public image role in either your club or your business. Okay, so for those of you who are listening to this presentation and are not public image or marketing chairs, you're not off the hook. So hopefully you weren't just sitting back and snoozing. Every Rotarian has a part to play in the marketing of their club. If you have your own social media account, like, tag, share your club's posts. If you're an event chair, say my famous golf tournament example, get your marketing team on board right from the start. They don't have to attend all the meetings, but let them know to issue a save the date. Then let them drip out content as these bits of information start to crystallize. So if it's your golf tournament, highlight the sponsors as they're signing on. Tag those sponsors. If your marketing person doesn't know about it ahead of time, doing something a week before the event is far too late. And you're not getting all that great credit with your sponsors if you're just kind of listing them all in one massive list at the event time, right? Tagging them and dripping them in on an ongoing basis is great. Use your marketing team to support you in whatever aspect you're doing throughout your club or throughout the district. They're there to help, and you actually make it a lot easier for them to do their job if you're keeping them in the loop of what you need. And finally, tell the world about what you're doing. So if you're doing a garbage cleanup, snap some pictures, tell people about it ahead of time, get some of the youth volunteers and their community service hours involved, get them to tell their friends about what they're doing. Tag the local Rotaract club so that that club can now have a connection that they can follow up with. It really is amazing once we just start talking how much people are interested in what we have to say. So that's the massive overview. I guess the other question that I tend to get, whether it's a business or a service club, is great. How do I know this is working? What do my Google Analytics say? And although Google Analytics are fantastic, they're a really robust tool, they don't tell the whole story. So what I make sure I tell people is it achieving what you set out to do? We started this presentation with identifying our audience. Where are we now? Who do we want to keep? Where do we want to go? What are those people looking at? And then finally, it's working when they're contacting you. It's working when they're volunteering as a friend of Rotary to come out and help you. It's working when you have guests at your meetings, when you have businesses sharing your social media posts, when you have young people engaging in what you have to say. So numbers are great, but you'll know you're doing a good job by what you're getting back as feedback. And if you're not getting that feedback, take another look at your content calendar and your approach and make sure you're hitting those targets of what you want to say. So I am going to end there. If anyone has any questions, I'm not sure if you would like to just speak up if you're comfortable, or if you want to put it in the chat. I will do my best to answer.
Well, thank you, Melissa. We have two monitors, our two district governor elect and district governor nominee, who monitor the chat for each of our Tuesday talks. So I'm going to ask Joseph and John if they would like to pose some questions to Melissa on behalf of the group.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of questions going into the chat box. One of the things I do notice, and I have a question on it too, what is Hootsuite?
Hootsuite is an app or a program that you can use to set up all of your social media tweets, Facebook posts, etc. ahead of time. You can schedule them. So if I want to go hog wild and schedule them for the entire month, then I can sit down for an hour, put them all in there, schedule them, and they will drip out and release to all of the appropriate channels. It also helps to aggregate content so that it makes it just easier. So instead of posting at all of these individual ones, you can hit them all at the same time. You used to be able to post to Facebook and then have it go to all the different Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. They've all recognized that now they're competitors, which they are. So they don't like linking to each other and making it easy for you. Hootsuite takes the role of what you used to be able to do for free and lets you do that and plan it ahead. I saw that there was a question about cost. I would have to look into it. I believe that a base level is still free. And then if you want to add like a myriad of different social media platforms and really go above and beyond, then there is a fee for it, but the base is free.
Okay.
I had a question. So Melissa, I know through our district website refresh program, you've worked with a lot of clubs in our district. What are some of the more common, or what's the common feedback you're getting from clubs after you complete the refresh? And what are some of the more common things you're seeing as the shall not do sort of habits within our clubs?
Well, the shall not do is the not touching your site for 5 years.
Yes, that's the obvious.
That's the big one. And I saw one question in the chat room pertains to the old version and the new version, and that really is an answer to your question as well. The biggest comment is for anyone who has tried to use the old system, possibly actually stuck with it and is still trying to do what they can with it. They are so thrilled to learn the new system. And as part of the project, we move all of the old page content into the new system for them. And you know that you're using the old system when it takes at least 6 clicks to get anywhere. And by the time you get there, you forget why you went there in the first place. You also know you're in the old system if it looks super boring. So you've got the page with the links on the side, and you've got the content dumped in the middle, and you can't do anything else. You can't add nice picture headers. You can't add a Facebook feed. If you're looking at it and all you've got is static text, you're in the old system. And if you're frustrated, you're definitely in the old system.
Just quickly, last year I was going to visit a club. I checked out their website, and I've told Jim Ludet this story before. His name and picture was listed as the district governor for the year. So I think I'm going to have to give you the name of that club. So we're going to have to bang on their door to make some changes.
That is possible. With the 7090 clubs, of course, we did everybody who signed up themselves and were really gung-ho first. And that took out a large chunk of them. Then we started contacting some of the ones that were the worst offenders. The very last one to come through the door was Williamsville. Their last post was from 2015. Very sweet group, but they were very skeptical that you don't get anything for free or anything covered. So it took a little bit of convincing, but that was probably the worst offender, apart from those who don't have websites at all, of course. But yeah, that was a good one. And as far as the feedback, relief, especially on the part of the marketing, public image people, the ability to include others that they had identified as having some potential to help, but were unwilling to do it without any kind of training. So getting more people involved, even if it was just to post the events, or your job is just to post the stories, to help out that marketing person and take off a little bit of pressure was huge. And then giving them the tools that they needed to really quickly and easily in 5 minutes update their website, rather than a half hour to hour of relearning every time how to do this, which was the old Club Runner system, unfortunately.
Melissa, in terms of frequently updating, how long would you say is reasonable to leave an article or a story on the website?
I would love to see them updated once a week. I know the reality is for my own club, that's challenging because everybody's busy. But if you could provide, a new bit of content each week, that is ideal. Much, much easier to do in a non-COVID time. If we're actually having a weekly meeting, it's not a big deal to snap a picture of the speaker, with their permission, of course, and provide just 4 or 5 lines on what they spoke about. That's all it takes. I get that everyone's kind of done with the Zoom snapshots and stuff like that. But ideally, if you could update once a week, that would be good.
I was more kind of hinting towards articles and stories that were already on the website. How long would you leave them there? Would you remove them after 4 weeks, 5 weeks, or?
I don't actually remove them. What I do is when I post a new one, it automatically bumps off the old one. So I think I have 6 on my club's website, and they just keep routinely getting bumped off. I leave them all in the story page, however. So if you scroll down on my Welland Club story, you'll probably get stuff from 2014, 13, whatever. And that's fine because that's indexable content for Google. It's still picking up keywords on various locations and projects and speakers, but it's not looking stale dated to the average person who's only looking above the fold. So I would leave them.
Okay.
So Melissa,
Yes.
we're probably close to that club you talked about that we don't want to talk about. But so what you're saying, if I understand, is if we go to the district website, sign up for the revamp or refresh course, is that when Club Runner is downloaded, or can you only make changes to Club Runner on a computer and not on your iPhone on the app? Is that 2 different things? Because I've tried to do things on the app and it doesn't let me do anything. I don't actually think I have access. That's another issue that I need to speak to Bob about. Yeah, but I just wondered.
Yeah, there are a few different questions in there. So I'll start maybe backwards and make sure that I catch everything. Club Runner has different levels of access for different people. And as the club admin, you can give different levels of access for posting, stories or events, or being a full website manager, etc. So if you don't have the right access, that's something that I help with as part of the refresh project, to work with Club Runner support to make sure that you do have those tools. So let's start there. Doing it from your phone or iPad. I honestly haven't tried. I work with WordPress quite a bit for my business sites, and I even find that that's clunky and archaic to use with the phone. I'm trying to do much more complex things, and kind of going like this is a little tough on any device, regardless of the content management system. So the answer is you might be able to, but it's going to be difficult.
Okay.
Melissa, can I jump in and help with you and Frank a little bit? Frank's club does not have Club Runner at the club site, club level. So the access and stuff doesn't apply. They only are on the district site. So when the club goes back to Club Runner at the club site, then we can sort out all the access stuff. The other important thing that Melissa is doing with the refresh is making sure our websites look good on mobile devices. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of websites, but the majority of people access them through a mobile device now. So that's the important part. And the Club Runner app is really for names and addresses and contacts. It's different than the website.
Okay.
So I hope that helps, Frank. You and I can talk later.
Yeah, well, we'll need to, yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of finishes, I think, where you started with your question. So if you're not a club that is currently on Club Runner, part of the refresh project, if you want to go to Club Runner, is to actually build your new website. So we have the allotment of hours so that we can take, if you have an old website and we're migrating it over, or if you don't have a website at all, then we work with Club Runner, get them to set up the software for you, get your profile going, build out the website, and then at the end teach you how to update it yourself. So not every club needs that. So thankfully there's kind of this nice evening out of what everybody requires, that those requiring less kind of make up for the ones that require a little bit more. But we make sure start to finish that you've got everything that you need to go through and operate.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
Melissa, I've got two questions. One sort of originated with Frank there. Do we all have access to the new version of Club Runner? Is there a cost to use the new version, or how do we go to the new version? Just use the refresh program?
Well, you can do it that way. All clubs should have access to the new version of Club Runner. I have found one out of all of them that did not, and it was simply a matter of contacting Club Runner support, and they probably tick a box. So everyone should have access to it. It is in your blue dashboard navigation menu. It's called New Website Beta. Click on that, and it gives you a drop down in the gray bar of the home page and the content pages, etc. So it does not cost any more, and you should be able to access it and convert all of your pages over. If you're doing it yourself, it should be there, and otherwise go through the refresh program. That is what I spend the majority of my training time on.
Thanks, Melissa. Another, I guess, comment for the people on attending tonight. You did a refresh for our district website, and as you know, we got into the habit of helping people find things by just adding and adding and adding to the start menu, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, someone added to our start menu a link that should be under About 7070. So
Okay.
I'm thinking, how do we tell people how to use it, not to do that?
Right. So I can speak back to what we did with 7090. So the 7090 site was actually the last site that went through the refresh. After that was done, and I kind of got it to the point where I thought it should be, and the public image chair and the person who manages the site thought that it should be, we trained all of the chairs who ever touched the site. So they got the same message of, here's our vision, here's where it is as perfect as we can get it right now. Here's what we do want you to do. Here's what we don't want you to do. So they received the same type of training that a club would have received. And we also now have a budget to provide additional help and training to all of those chairs who are managing the site, so that I can put my librarian hat back on and say, okay, the 4 levels of menus, you're just overwhelming people. Like, come on, think of what's important, crystallize it down, work within those parameters. So the 7070 site actually still has some budgeted hours left on it. Whenever Dave has an opportunity to circle back and breathe. So we're not quite done with that one yet, but I would say that when we are done, probably the same training of all the chairs touch it is a good idea.
That's our next step for sure.
Like I say,
Okay, guys, I'm going to intervene here. We're into our last couple of minutes. So I want to turn it over to Governor Ron to thank Melissa. And then I'm going to take a couple of seconds to introduce our next Tuesday talk for September. So over to you, Ron.
Thanks, Beth. And thank you, Melissa. The work that you've helped our clubs with on the website refresh program has been amazing to date, and including the work that you've done on our district site. Thank you, and thank you for being here tonight. If anyone has any questions for Melissa, keep pumping them in, and we'll make sure that we do get them followed up. But Melissa, I can't begin to thank you enough. We appreciate you bringing all the expertise that you developed in 7090 and we're getting the benefit of in 7070. And we look forward to continuing to work with you over the course of this year and the years to come.
Oh, my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
I also put my email address in the chat. If anyone does have any follow-up questions, you can just email.
Oh, Melissa, you are brave. This group will have lots of follow-up questions. Just to follow up on Ron's comment, I want to let you know that as a token of our appreciation, we will be making a donation to the Rotary Foundation of Canada in your name.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you. Let's give Melissa a round of applause before I introduce our September Tuesday talks. Thank you, Melissa.
You're very welcome.
So-
My pleasure.
Yeah, so we do these talks, Melissa, every month on the second Tuesday. And so the next one is all about youth services. So we're going to hear from the leaders of the various youth services committees. I'm sure that we'll also hear from past Sister Governor Mark Chipman, who is the lead on all those committees. But we're going to hear about programs like Early Act, Interact, Rotaract, and Rotary Youth Exchange, which we are going to hopefully be able to get up and started this fall for outbound students in a year from now. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and thank you, Melissa, for a wonderful presentation. And have a great evening, everyone, and we'll see you in another month. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
Thanks, Bob. Bob, perhaps we can take a peek tomorrow?
Yeah, we can, Dave. You'll
Okay.
you'll see it as soon as you log into the website, or
Okay.
not. It'll just go for it. Okay.
Okay, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody.